Oh, I can't wait for a pause and meditation here as we embrace community. Community. It was a joy to sit here and to, when I first embarked upon this journey to Alaska, you're always taught these things in the books, and I was thinking like, hey man, I'm going to Alaska. I'll see some igloos. I'll see some folks, and we'll probably go check out a whale, and I'll probably eat some whale blubber, all that, that was in my mind as a young guy, and come way back when, and then last year was the first time I actually came here, and I'm always looking for my indigenous people, always looking for my indigenous people. Where are we? That's my mind. Where are we, Because I grew up hard knocks too, with zero, nothing. One room house, dirt floor, go get your water, go chop your wood, everything. And so coming from nothing and realizing today a little bit about responsibility. Through our ceremonial way of life, I learned responsibility. I learned it. Then I also learned from my sister, my tanke, how loving my mom would have been through my sister. My sister was also a midwife. My sisters were also registered nurses, and that instituted cultural competency in the hospitals around newborn babies, about birthing, about our placenta, about not spanking the child, about everything about the next generation. Healthy generations, she said. Healthy generations. Well, it starts from there. And to teach our young ladies how to be respectable, and to teach our young men how to protect our community. Protect. And she would say this, our teepee is a family. Our teepee. The vortex is what is sacred on the top is sacred on the bottom in the Star Nation. And this vortex that comes down, it's a symbol of what is sacred here to the Star Nation and the Star people, and to what is sacred down here. And those poles represent the woman. She's the backbone of a family. And that cover represents the male, supposed to protect and provide for that home. And those stakes around the lodge, your children is your foundation of your home. That fire, when men goes out, a woman tends to that fire. She's the faith keeper of the home. The faith keeper of the home. And that fire is a symbolism of a never-ending prayer. From each camp to each camp. This prayer is essential. So there's always a prayer in that home. But that smoke is going someplace. And those flaps are grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa. Those prayers that were said for us. And each and every one of us, we have grandparents somewhere. Somewhere in your life, your grandparents thought about you. Way over there. Way over there. Because that generation thought differently. They spoke differently. And they thought about way over there, our future. 7 generations. And that 7th generation was to restore balance in our broken hoop. Chongleska, our hoop. They knew about this suppression. They knew about everything that was coming. They knew about someday this water is going to be for sale. They selling water now. We're all drinking that water that they talked about. Someday they're going to want to sell the air. Selling us air now. Every natural resource that was freely obtainable, now sold to us. Your language is being sold back to you. your language being sold back to you by this mindset, colonial mindset. So understanding who we are as indigenous people is our worldview. There's 7 directions. But that last one is you, right here. You, nie, you. Here, 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 here. 7 directions. So understanding our worldview as indigenous people, and all indigenous people of the world have the same ideology about mitakwe oyase. What is mitakwe oyase? All my relations, that's what it is. I said this before. We're all related, but some of us don't want to be related. Some of us don't know how to be related because of this colonial intrusion that happened from day one. Boarding schools, the school system, everything that we were taught, now, if you look at it, has to be unlearned. Because it was a systematic oppression to allow us to think a certain way and believe a certain way. And we were always second class, third class citizens. Down here, we're down here. Let us civilize these indigenous people. Let us teach them something, what they said. Well, yeah, we're going to teach you something. That's the mindset we should have. We get along with the earth. We understand, we respect. Lakota, o yoniha, o hola, is respect. We always talk about kinship. We never address anybody as names. You would never hear my nephew say, "Hey, Sandor, come over here." If I ever heard that, I wouldn't even go over there. No. Lekshi, Lechawo, hey, Lekshi, uncle, over here. Uncle, Tokia. That's Wotakuye. Wotakuye is kinship. That is what our fundamental mindset should be. Relations. My Hakashi, my moose relative walked by. Wamakashka. Those the animal life. Wamakashka. We walk by. These wahwe oyate, zintkala oyate. Everything is a nation in our worldview. The animals, the plants, the medicines, the birds. Everything. And when you realize you're niwakha, you are sacred. You are sacred. You are sacred. Why? This le makoche. This is the earth. This is the earth. Minik, 60% of you, depending on how small you are, I'll say, how much water you have inside you. How much water you have inside you. That's the element. Maka is the element. This nia, wonia is life. You have a breath of life inside you. You are sacred. You're sacred. You were to be a certain way because that's the teaching. You are sacred. You carry the elements right inside of you. So we realize these things as we go. Our worldview is about all things related. And this is Takushkoshko, is life. In our ceremony, Oini Kaga, Inipi, Wonia, Ini, Nie, you, Wonia, life. That's life. Oini Kaga, Ni, we're going to make life. From the creation stories of Tunka'ia, this rock was part of our creation story. Tunka'ia. But before Tunka'ia became a rock, it was a powerful cloud. And the first creation story, it created Maka, the earth. And Tunka'ia gave Maka first medicine. Mini, water. So in our ceremony, we go into that, we build the fire from a sweat lodge, you would say. We put the rock there. Our understanding is this creation story. When we go in there, And inside of there is a symbolism of the Wachbe, Wichachbe Oyate, the Star Nation inside there. We go into Unchi's womb, Grandma's womb, and cleanse ourselves. And that mani that's poured under, that steam that comes off, is life. It is life. So these ideologies we have clearly in our head, these stories we have an understanding of. When we go in there, we think of these things and we breathe new life inside of us and we create life. It's life again. Our worldview is based upon mitaka, and that is dakushkanshka, is something that moves. In all creation there is life. And that is the life force, and that is dakushkanshka. Dakushka, in a ceremonial way, is something that moves in the plant life, in the human, in the animal. That is universal law. That is also our philosophy of Mitakwe Oyase, which is connecting everything. We are connected. Everything is connected. And, you know, I ran across a few wonderful non-Indigenous people. They said, we want to build bridges to your culture. I was like, wow, yeah, all right. I said, that's great. But let me tell you something. Close your eyes. What do you see? I don't see nothing. I said, squeeze your eyes just a little bit harder. What do you see? It looks like circles. I said, yeah, squeeze it real hard. You'll see little circles. These circles are all around us. You're a circle, I'm a circle, you're a circle. Overlapping of circles. You'll see overlapping of circles. Circles and circles and circles. Everything is that way. And you look at the universe is that way. And nature teaches us all about this circles from nature. Because that is the first university. That's the no university. So we're all students. So I said, yeah, that's great. You know, you want to create a bridge. But as Indigenous people, everything's already connected. I don't see any bridges. Really. Everything is already connected. When you have that Indigenous mindset, everything's already connected. And it's about energy. That's dakushkonshko, that energy. Energy, you're all a living force of life. You're all a living force of energy. Energy. And believe me, I got that energy knocked out of me from a bullet, and that quick. But for the Spirit coming to me, brought my life back into my body. And that was a higher power. You know, my takeaway, let me just say this about that incident. It's so easy to take somebody's life. It's so easy to take somebody's life. But on the other side of that, you're going to be super responsible for what you just did. And that person that no longer has life, you just took their burdens from them. You took all of their burdens. That person now is a clean spirit. So when I say this, because in my younger life, growing through my growing pains, I was just like any other young person, you know. I grew up, didn't want to be pushed around. I grew up not appreciating bullies. I don't like bullies. You know, and that's how I got my paperwork done too in high school. Hey, they're bothering me. Hey, leave them alone. Okay, come help me do my math. But, you know, life and this movement we have here is an energy force. And part of the process too is to understand our spiritual nature as Indigenous people. Because all of us have that understanding inside of our DNA. It is in us to understand everything what I'm saying. A correlation of what it is within your own tribe and how you view things. But this energy force, we're only here for a small moment. We're only here for a small moment. When I was 16, I was like, you know, I could remember when I was 13. I man, wait till I get my 16, I'm gonna get my license, man. I didn't even have a car, but it was like, I get my license. Sure enough, I turned 16. Right on the date, I went and had my friend take me over there, got my license. You know? Got a license. Hey, bro, I could drive your car now. And you ain't drive my car. Then I was 18. There's 18 come around. Oh shoot! Hey, when you turn 18, my brothers, you have to register a selected service. What's that? I don't know. Just government stuff. Keep track of you, just in case war breaks out. They're gonna look for you. Hey, they ain't gonna look for me, man. Well, you gotta register. It's law. Fine. In my high school years, I wanted to be a Marine. Went through the whole process. Have no hearing on this side. Whole process. Sorry. That's when my spiritual journey started, though. But what I thought was my plan was a bigger plan, a spiritual plan. And I didn't understand that until way later. So why? I even questioned Creator. Why did you take my parents? Why my mom? I walked around aimlessly thinking those things. But when I started to take this other journey, I found myself in ceremony. I found myself in many ceremonies, traditional ceremonies. And I also found myself in peyote ceremony with my uncles. My uncles were my teachers. And I was a young person. And I was sitting there in a ceremony one time, looking at the fire and learning. And in one instant, it was a journey for myself, my young self, sitting there in the fire, and I just sat down. And this happened within myself, my spiritual experience. Within what appeared to me like 30 minutes, it was already morning time. And these are all-night ceremonies. And then I seen my uncle giving me tobacco. And that tobacco that he gave me helped bring me back to this teepee. That was the beginning of my spiritual journey and understanding myself. Long story short, I was encouraged by my uncles to step up and be a leader within this Native American church. And when you understand Indian policies, we were the problem to the United States government, right? You all know that. We were the problem. Boarding schools, it happened here, it happened there. We know that. And some of us are still dealing with that issues. But it was the journey in my life that helped me understand who I was by giving me responsibility as a leader within the Native American church and understanding our church and the history. So my mom's dad, his last name was Kilscrow. I don't say that too much when I go to Montana. But I do have some Crow relatives.
Everybody does.
A Rick Crow.
Yeah. I'm original Crow.
And Pawnee. So, but my grandpa was our chairperson of our church, and I started my young journey relearning about my mom and dad and about my grandparents and the history of us as Lakota people. Then I found myself in the university learning about Indian policy and studies. So here was another revelation about my responsibilities as a spiritual person within the Native American Church, incorporated October 5th of 1922 in our territory on our reservation, Allen, South Dakota. Native American Church of South Dakota became that name in 1934. But all along, learning about Indian policy in this whole era of suppression and boarding school. learning about my grandparents that went to Carlisle boarding school. There was a lot of people there. A couple of years back, Rosebud brought some children back. Real issues. So all along, learning this whole suppression of the United States government, and it hasn't changed today. It hasn't changed today. Unfortunately, I might be here next Friday during the protest. But it really brought this medicine as a teacher. As a teacher, it brought healing to me. And in my challenge of this accident, it was also administered to me in a hospital. It brought me peace. It brought me understanding about who I am and my responsibility. And also, it brought me a little bit more awareness about being a parent, being a dad, and my girls, my daughter. I had boys first. I'm like, yeah, that's a warrior's hope. But when my daughter came, it was a whole different story. It's a whole different story about that feminine energy and that feeling that I had for my daughter, you know, protect her, you know, those kind of feelings. I learned a little bit more about how I could be a better parent, and I contribute that to that medicine. That medicine and that ceremony, the beauty ceremony. And it's taught me what little I know today. And to be an advocate for this ceremonial way of life today. You look at nature, there's always a male and a female. And you look at our ceremonies, there's always a male and a female that take care of our ceremonial way of life. The next generation has a challenge because they don't want to listen. A lot of them don't want to listen. The protocols of our ceremony are very important. You have to keep them that way. But for whatever reason, the next generation is preoccupied with this too. Mm-hmm. And this determines how they feel. This right here. It determines how they feel. It'll let them, right here. If they read something, they're going to feel a certain way. It doesn't come naturally how they feel. And we have a challenge, all of us, because I've seen it in every community. Not only these substance issues, but they are very serious. Fentanyl is very serious. Fentanyl is very serious. And even on our Navajo reservation, different things that we've seen just recently. A big bust right before the reservation. Fentanyl. I don't know how many. These are real issues that we face as indigenous people. It used to be only alcohol. Only. And that one you could treat with ceremony. That one you could treat. Now you have methamphetamines that are changing the chemical composition of your brain and destroying you, because the only thing that you're putting in your body is chemicals, raw chemicals. And it takes your spirit out. And it'll put something in there. And that spirit does not care who in the heck you are. It'll want anything and everything to keep feeding it. Keep feeding it. That one right there is a dark spirit. Very dark. We have challenges as indigenous communities to remind each other to be a good relative. Remind each other about our ceremonies. And this was an intention, a spiritual intention, by David and Heather to share a ceremony with you all in some way. To put a prayer there. Put a prayer here, a prayerful thought. To put a ceremony in community that our people could plant some spiritual seeds within themselves to help ourselves heal. Help ourselves heal. I'm not here to tell you anything that you don't know already. You already know what I'm saying. But to remind you that we're all the same. We're all similar in these aspects. Now the day goes by that I think of my parents, my parents. But if I stay to ceremony, I feel like they're happy. If I stay to the good road, I feel like my parents are happy. Yeah. I feel like they're like, and certain things happen. Karma's real. Karma's real. They used to say, watch what you say. Watch what you say, because what you say and you're manifesting something that's going to come back to you. We never used to gossip about each other. Now you could just go there, read the world's gossip. We never used to be like that. Because it used to be mindful of our energy and what we're putting out there. The energy is very important. You reap what you sow. You put it out there, you're going to get it back somewhere. And the same concept with goodness. We give from our heart. We give from our heart. We know there's a blessing coming. And that's why we do what we do on the goodness. It's to share something good with somebody. Share something good with somebody. It's going to come back to us in that way. But we have the here and the now. A small story is that when I see my uncles, I had uncles that were traditional and I had uncles that were, I would say, Christian, Catholic, whatever it was. They would read the Word of God in certain times, and I have traditional. And when I was a young guy, one of my uncles was reading the Word of God to us, and he was like, and then one of my nephews brought him a magnifying glass, and he was like that. And it says in here, John 3:16, and I was a young guy, and I was like, not that bad. I thought that in my mind. And then the minute, no sooner the day that I turned 50, I was like, what the heck is this? And it was just like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Aging gracefully. Aging gracefully. It is a blessing. It is a blessing. And to really instill that into our younger generation about generational responsibilities in that. When my uncles and my aunties came over, younger people, no questions asked. If they came back from the store, hey, what you got in the trunk? Let me help you. Let me haul it in for you. Nowadays, you almost have to twist the younger people's arm to say, hey, go help out there, go help. It was never that way. I never seen it that way. And when older people were talking, younger people, like, oh, there was older people talking. So I'm referencing the next generation and our responsibilities. And our food. Thank you for your invitation. And thank you for the food, because when we look at, I go hunting, we pick berries, we harvest the meat. And when COVID hit, everybody said, "Where the freezers froze up, the food went bad. The meat, we'd have no more meat." Why? There's a moose that went by over here. You have to spiritually harvest your food and know how to do that to survive. You can't wait for McDonald's to do that for you. It's not even good for you. The mindset of how we need to be is the same all across the board that I see, because these substances hinder us. Our spirituality is what keeps us who we are. Our spirituality, it's not a religion. The spirit of who we are as a people, as a nation. And so really looking at, I heard this before. You miss your relatives. You miss your relatives that gone beyond. Take a good look in that mirror. There's your mom and your dad right in the mirror. And as young as we get, switch it around here. As young as we are, we'll always be our parents' child. We'll always be that. We'll always yearn for it. We'll always be that way. And now to understand the energy movement from birth of a child to adolescence to the next age, adulthood and second childhood, this energy is going to go back. We have to be understanding of that energy. And we have to know that they're not gone. They're never gone. And that's what we understand in our ceremonies that happen. Our ceremonies bring back the spiritual nature of our people. They're never gone. They're never gone. Then the energy moves in such a way, in a different way, with the wind, with the trees. And different things that you could feel about them. Always around. Always around. But it's us that have to change the way we think about things. Our colonial intrusion and how we think about things has hindered us in some way. To unlearn some of those teachings by society and relearn what indigenous mindsets mean, to indigenize ourselves, to understand who we are as a people. So I would contribute everything to myself and what little I know to the spiritual nature of our ceremonies, our peyote ceremonies. Today we take care of peyote ceremonies. And I would put a prayer there. You're always welcome to our homeland, our Texas homeland too. Now we started a project to reteach what it means to spiritually harvest medicines. You can't just go over there and chop it up and say, yeah, I got it, let's go. No. There's a relationship that you have to remember with your plants. That relationship is a respectful relationship. You talk to it, you tell it what you need, and it's going to be that way for you. You give an offering, and then you harvest. You pray with it, it'll be that way. That's what we're reteaching our people in the 48 states down there, to how to be respectful in that way. And empowerment, just like here. I want to say thank you to Anna Begay. Met her. She's from Kent, Arizona. They're just neighbors. We're all neighbors over here too. Another surprise, you know. But I want to say thank you to her and those kids that just went out, you know, because I think it's a wonderful thing to start to engage in community and to chaperone our teachers, our students in a way. I was a part of a fatherhood initiative that brought fathers out because fathers were too busy. And as males, sometimes we're stubborn. We don't get in touch with our emotions. Like that, you know. We took the men out and the boys to rekindle relationship. Because sometimes, you know, there's an expectation that we have of our sons, but we don't really express it in a way that they understand it. And it always seems like we're always like that. You should, you already know. What's wrong with you? What did I show you? Sometimes we're like that. But we take the men and the boys out there to really talk about what does a father mean? What does a son mean? In that relationship. So I seen that here as it went out here today in that relationship. So I just wanted to say thank you to her and all that group that went out. But I want to share, you know, an appreciation to each one of you that listen. You know, it's a challenge for me sometimes because I can't hear, right? And my wife is always, you know, sitting on the wrong side of me, you know. But she's always telling me different things about, hey, somebody said this and somebody said that. You know, I was like, oh, okay, all right. So then I kind of recap on that. So it's really a challenge for me sometimes, you know. And I say that in good context, but I just want to say thank you for listening to me, you know. Blessings to your home. And thank you for being here, you know. We know your daughter, she came to our home. She talked about your experience with the medicine at one time in your life. And she talked highly of you, you know. And it's a pleasure to meet you in that way. And we always hold our door open for them, you know. They went to ceremony with us in our home. We built a new prayer home, had a ceremony in it, and then they took off on a plane, you know. I was kind of worried about them, but you know, they're troopers. But once again, David, thank you. You know, and each and every one of you for obliging this. I'm just happy to be here and to share a little bit. We all have a story. You all have a story, and I said that before. If we all just gave a moment in time to each other to listen to each other's story, we'll probably have more respect for each other in that story, because we all have one. And it's up to us to exemplify that story in some way, shape, or form. So thank you for listening to me. Blessings to your home as the seasons change, and as you prepare for the next season, may you be comfortable and have what you need for the next season in that way. So thank you very much. Pilamaya below.